Coming to you from a reclosed Florida bar shortly after a premature reopening, I'm RJ Balde, and this is the TRICHOMES Hash podcast. On this show, we feature conversations about trending cannabis topics. We also bring in industry insiders and influencers to discuss their point of view. In this episode, I'll be talking to Cameron Clarke about the science his cannabis product brand is utilizing to provide a precise THC and CBD dosage and reduced onset time. We'll also talk about the role that modern science plays in the company's mission to accurately market and label their products, cultivating community trust, stepping through pinhole opportunities, and much more. Without further ado, let's hash it out. Today, I am joined by Cameron Clarke, CEO of Sunderstorm, a California-based active lifestyle company with a mission to help people step into a light of wellness with consciously made science-based cannabis products. Welcome to the show, Cameron.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Where are you joining us from virtually right now? Where in the world is Cameron Clarke?
From the heart of cannabis in the San Fernando Valley.
I love it. I love it. And how has are you still practicing quarantine? Are you still distancing? How's it been going for you?
Yeah, so this has been a challenge for us, absolutely. As an essential business, we've been fully operational since day one through COVID. We have a number of folks that are working out of their homes, but our entire production facility is fully up and running 7 days a week with 2 shifts. And our distribution facilities are also up and running, obviously. So it's been a big challenge for us. We've had to implement a bunch of safety procedures and measures to keep our team safe. And so far, more or less, we've been pretty good managing the challenge of COVID.
That's good. Good to hear. In what ways, if at all, have you had to sort of tweak your operations ever since, when was it, March, April?
Yeah. So what we did right away was obviously we did the basics, right? Everyone typically in our production facility wears masks, but we implemented that across the board for all of our distribution facilities as well. We take everybody's temperature. We try to socially distance the best we can, all the basics. But one of the most important things that we did was really divide the teams up and try to have as little cross-pollination across the different shifts as much as possible. And that's been a huge challenge for us, especially in the fulfillment side, because, we don't typically have the number of staff that we would normally have to do 2 full shifts. But it's been helpful, I think, for us to be able to divide it up so that if someone has gotten it in a shift, we can test everybody on that shift, and then we can quarantine them. And then the other shift, the second shift, is able to function fully. So it's added some costs. We've done we've had a number of tests that we've had to engage for a bunch of our employees, but we get them back rapidly, and it's been helpful to be able to give people the confidence that they can come into work without a tremendous amount of risk. So sure. That's the key is establishing a level of comfort that people feel like they're in a safe working environment.
Yeah, that's one of the most important aspects, I think, nowadays, is making sure that the employees feel safe in their workplace. In your facilities, your staff isn't customer facing, are they? So they're not dealing directly with customers?
No, I mean, okay. Consumers and patients, not. The answer is no. But however, when we are in the shops doing deliveries, we have a field marketing team that is out in the shops dealing with bud tenders and dispensary staff. Actually, we've gotten a very positive response over the last couple of months from many of the shops saying that they were very pleased that we were one of the few vendors and brands that actually came in to see them. We gave them T-shirts and hats and swag and things, and try to keep a good relationship with them and help them as the bud tenders as they're managing through this as well, which is very different existence for them than it was previously. So they're happy to see us when we come in.
Sure. Now, Sunderstorm, if I have this correct, was founded in 2015, right?
That's correct.
Cool. So in that 5 years, you've had to deal with this unprecedented situation, this worldwide pandemic. Do you find any sort of bright sides or benefits, maybe for lack of a better term, in having to deal with something like this within the first 5 years of your company? Will it in any way maybe make you stronger or more adept to dealing with these sorts of unpredictable events?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because there's good and the bad and the ugly in this
Sure.
scenario. One thing that's really interesting is that I can speak for the California cannabis market,
Mm-hmm.
and really this has been extremely challenging for every single player that has come into this industry in California to date. This has been the wild, wild west of wild, wild west. Everything and anything can go wrong. And honestly, we're just accustomed to it. In the old days in the Prop 215, we had to move out of a couple of facilities within a matter of hours because we were concerned about, getting raided. And, all of us operated with those difficulties and uncertainty. So players in this industry are pretty fierce. Like we understand what true challenge is. And I always tell people that this has been by far the most challenging business that I've ever had. And it's taken every ounce of brain power that my partner and I can muster to be able to navigate this incredibly challenging matrix and the transition from unlicensed to a fully regulated market. Mm-hmm. So then COVID comes along and throws another monkey wrench in front of us. And I think, it's interesting. We all, had a certain amount of fears and anxieties. But when I talk to other players in the industry and I look at ourselves, it's just another hurdle that we've managed to navigate. And the players in this industry are very dynamic, and we're accustomed to making quick adjustments. And as an example, I think a lot of the shops set up delivery services very, very rapidly within a matter of a week or two, which is really tremendous when you think about it. It's a big ordeal to actually go out there and change your business from brick and mortar to delivering it directly to the consumers. And they did it really, honestly, pretty seamlessly. And all of that in the midst of the consumers stocking up and panicking about whether or not they're going to have access to their cannabis medicine. So it was incredibly interesting. We did more in 1 week in March than we did in our first year and a half in business. So it was wow. Not only we were dealing with trying to keep our team safe and dealing with potential shutdowns, but we were also dealing with consumers emptying the stores. I tell everybody, cannabis in March became the new toilet paper. And,
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And stocking up. And so, everybody had to supply, and the shops were manage it. We manage it. So we're accustomed to it. But one of the more interesting things about it is that, and I recognize this relatively early, this industry's in California has been going through a lot of changes in the last, 6 months, right? There's been a shortage of capital coming into the industry to be able to support it. There are very few players which are cash flow positive. So everybody was struggling to be able to navigate business in general. And then COVID came. And what ended up happening is that it sort of was a bigger separator of the haves and the have-nots. So it kind of threw a little bit of jet fuel on the fire of accelerating the brands that were executing well and had access to capital and those that were profitable, like ourselves, and those that were still struggling, trying to build their businesses. And so, whether you see it as fair or unfair, it's just kind of the nature of the industry at the moment. And it's just another hurdle that we're all dealing with. But I think that COVID has actually worked to help to the benefit of the bigger brands, unfortunately, and has made it harder for some of the smaller brands. So a challenge for all of us in the industry, especially those of us that really believe in boutique brands and wanting to be able to offer a wide variety of products to the consumer. So,
Sure.
it's these are definitely challenging times.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, based upon the fact that you're a cannabis business, you haven't gotten any sort of assistance from the federal government.
Yes, we looked at that, and we decided not to pursue any of that
Hmm.
for a couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One is we just didn't believe that it was really going to be truly available to us, and
Mm-hmm.
secondly, our business has been doing quite well in 2020, so we opted to leave those funds and those resources available to other companies which may need them more than we do, and there's certainly plenty of those. So,
Sure.
we're doing fine right now. So, we had to lay off a few people, we furloughed a few people, but in general, the business is growing nicely, and we're doing quite well. So,
Yeah, good. I respect that. I respect you leaving those resources for, like you say, another company or another group of people that might need it a little bit more. Um, so I want to talk about the name Sunderstorm just real quick, because the name Sunderstorm comes from the phenomenon of the sun peeking through the darkness during a thunderstorm, which is in many ways a metaphor for the company's overall mission. So, since the founding of Sunderstorm in 2015, what have you found you've illuminated about the cannabis industry that was previously in the dark?
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we definitely came into this industry because we wanted to be one of those brands that executed really well, that were completely transparent with all of our consumers and patients and customers, and with our own team about how we operate and what we believe in, our ethos and all of that. We knew that this is been a traditionally dark and hidden industry, and we wanted to bring it into the light, and that's what a thunderstorm is, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Shining that light into kind of into a big storm, right? So, uh, what we did from the very beginning is we set up our own in-house lab. We bought an HPLC, and we did our own tests initially to test the product to see confirm our potencies, and then we were also we're probably also the oldest customer of CannaSafe, which is one of the larger labs
Sure.
here in California, based here in Los Angeles. We've been with them from the very beginning. Honestly, from the minute we set up the company and we started manufacturing product, we tested everything outside through CannaSafe, and then we tested as much as we could in-house as well. So the reason we did that is because we wanted to have very consistent, safe products for our consumers. And I will tell you, in the old days, it was very challenging to get 100% safe raw materials, very challenging to deliver the potencies that were consistent across the board. Everybody has an edible story where something was stronger than they anticipated, and they were not happy with the experience they had. We
Yeah.
wanted to be that brand that fought to avoid that, right? So we did everything we could to make sure that what we put on that package is actually what's in that package. And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, we tested a lot of other products in the old days, and none of them were anywhere near what was being put on the label. The other thing is that we believed very, very fiercely about zero pesticides in any of our products. Completely organic. I wouldn't even use the word organic. Completely pesticide free. So we have a zero pesticide policy today. In the beginning, it was almost impossible to find completely pesticide free trim. And it took a while, but we finally found it, and we began extracting with it. Our goal was really to make sure that what we put on that label is accurate, and that what we put into consumers' bodies is the same product that we're happy to consume ourselves. So I always tell everybody we eat our own dog food, right? If we make it, if we're not happy to consume it ourselves, we definitely don't want to put it on the shelf and to be sold for consumers to consume. So I think that ethos has gone through our entire business from the minute we started it. Our team understands it. They're proud of that ethos, and we do everything we can to make it right for the to be transparent and make it right for the consumers. The other thing is that the minute I started this company, I told everybody that we would be the Nordstroms of the industry, and what I meant by that was we wanted to be that brand that you could return anything, anytime, for any reason, no questions asked. I don't care if it's a year down the road. If someone wants to return a product, we will take that back. Okay. Because we don't want products that consumers or shops are unhappy with. And if it doesn't move off the shelf, we don't want to put it on the shelf. So we know that it takes time to develop really good products and products that we're proud of. And that's all we want to put on the shelf. So we strive very hard to do that. So I would. So those are the kinds of things that we felt we could bring into the industry that would make people feel comfortable. And in the end, what is a brand? A brand is a trusted relationship between a manufacturer and a consumer, right? And so that level of trust is something that we've worked very hard over the years to build, and we struggle every day to make sure that we abide by that. And we do have problems. Things happen all the time. We know that, but we work very hard to address them quickly and in a very fair and transparent way.
Yeah, man. I definitely personally have a few edible stories that are in the line of what you were talking about, where it wasn't what I expected it would be. Let's just put it at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, green fever is the first time I ever experienced what people call green fever was with an edible. I think it was like a homemade one too. So, definitely no science when it came to the dosage or anything like that.
Those products still exist out in the unlicensed market all day long, every day, and they are dangerous. They're flooded with pesticides, and God knows what, and they are not what they say they are on the label, and that consumers need to be very wary of that.
Yeah, and you're saying that you define a brand as a relationship between a company and a consumer, and your policy that you are the Nordstrom of cannabis companies, where consumers and patients can return those products if they feel unhappy. I think that plays very deeply into one of the three pillars of your company, which is community, and how you're really putting an emphasis on generating that trust between your company and the community in which you serve.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we built this company on, as you mentioned, what we call our three pillars of quality. Number one is the quality of our products. We want to make sure that they're the highest quality product as possible, right? Again, products that we're happy to consume ourselves and we're thrilled about. The second is quality of life. We want our products to improve people's lives. We feel very strongly that cannabis is an important medicine, whether you use it recreationally or medicinally. It helps your life. We want to lead people to an optimal life of wellness. That's our objective. And interestingly, we don't actually differentiate between medical and recreational. The way we see it is, I may use cannabis in the morning to deal with a little bit of pain in my back when I'm awaking, and on a medical level. And then I might go out in the evening and socialize with my friends and use cannabis as a social lubricant, right? So and no matter how you look at it, we see cannabis as leading to an optimal life of wellness, right? So the third pillar then is, as you mentioned, the quality of the community. How does cannabis and how do we as a company help to build bonds and improve all kinds of situations out in our communities? It's interesting. A lot of people in the cannabis industry are very progressive. We believe very strongly in progressive activities, and you can see that in the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of the cannabis companies stepped up right away and, started with activations and things to support that community. And we did as well. So, community, doing something good for your community and leveraging the power of the plant to benefit the community is fundamental to our ethos and how we run our business. And we're proud to be part of this community, helping people, and that drives us every day when we go to work.
Totally. And one of the most important ways in which you're doing that is, like we mentioned, to provide this precise dosing and also this reduced onset time. So I want to talk a little bit about the science and the technology that you have put into crafting these products. So Sunderstorm offers a few product lines, including edibles, vapes, sublinguals, and soon flower, I think. Am I pronouncing this right? The Kana Nano gummies?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Kana Nano.
Those are a fast-acting gummy. For those who may not know, those are a fast-acting cannabis-infused gummy with a 15-minute average onset time, and were voted the most accurately formulated edible in 2018 at the first CannaSafe award ceremony, like we mentioned before. The Cannies is what they're called. So can you tell me more about the nanomolecular technology that is used in those products and how you were able to obtain such a precise dosage and a reduced onset time?
There's a lot to that question. I mean, fundamentally, I have a science background. I was doing self-study molecular biology,
with
doing
algae, right?
research. Yeah, doing algae research, which is how I kind of stumbled into the industry. I've been a big advocate of plant medicines for quite some time, as has my partner, Keith. So we wanted to get into the industry, because we believe in the power of the plant. But importantly, science has been, another fundamental precept to how we, develop our products and offer them to the consumers. So we were the very first company in the industry to offer a nanomolecular technology with our liposomal technology in our sublinguals 4.5 years ago. It's interesting. Even before we had our edibles, our Kana gummies, we were offering what was originally called something different, but it's currently our Nano 5 sublinguals with this liposomal nanotechnology, 4.5 years ago. So, we are the pioneers in the industry of this, and we're proud to have offered it to consumers for a long time. We're also the first brand in California to have the nano gummies, or nano edibles, as you suggested. We've launched that product more than a year ago. It's been flying off the shelves. It basically reduces the effect time by 50%. So it cuts the time in half. So if it takes 45 minutes for you to feel the effect, you'll feel it in something around 20. If it takes you 30 minutes, usually with a normal edible, you'll feel it in like 15. So it's definitely rapid onset. It's very high bioavailability. Mm-hmm. And it's a colloidal technology that basically what it does is, it's kind of interesting. When it's embedded in the gummy, it actually starts to sort of pre-digest or start to break down the cannabis oil into smaller and smaller chunks in advance of actually getting into your gut. So what happens is the particles are very, very small. They're nanoparticles by the time they get into your gut. And so the uptake from the gut is very rapid. There's minimal amount of digestion that needs to go on once they're in the gut. And so that's why the absorption is much more rapid. So that technology is quite powerful. Our sublingual technology is a little bit different. It uses what's called a liposomal technology, which has been used for 30 years as a sublingual or goes under the tongue and ingests very quickly. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is that we work very, very hard. Our team is really great at at making sure that the potencies are accurate. And ways in which we do that is we calibrate our scales before prior to measuring for every batch. We have multiple people checking to make sure that the compounding is done right. We're very careful about measuring everything. We test everything multiple times throughout our entire process. We always have, to make sure that potencies are accurate. We don't take anybody's word on any potency on anything. We test it all ourselves, and that allows us to make sure that our products are what we say they're on the label. And that's crucial for us. We want the consumers to know that when they eat our gummy today, they will have the same exact experience that they had if they bought a package of our gummy 6 months ago. And interestingly enough, this is changing the edibles market. We talked about earlier about the fact that everybody has an edible story, right? You have one or two, no doubt. So, that's changing because consumers are finally starting to realize that they can have consistent edibles, and they know exactly how much that they need for their dosing, and if they can rely on it, then they get the consistent experience that they're seeking, just like you would with any other medicine. So it's important for us to have that level of dedication to ensuring that the potency is as close to what's on the package as possible.
Definitely. And important also because one bad edible experience could turn someone off like completely and sort of shut that door. Like, oh yeah, I tried it once, I didn't like it, and like now I'm just going to stay away from it. I'm traumatized.
Definitely. Yeah. And all the brands in the industry need to work hard to avoid that, because we need the industry to broaden, right? There are a lot. California is full of heavy consumers and old school consumers, and we're finally transitioning into some of the newer kind of curious consumers, they call them. And it's, gaining their trust is really important for all brands in the industry.
Sure. Shifting to, you mentioned the Nano 5 products, the sublinguals. So the problem that's cited on Sunderstorm's site is that because the THC and CBD in traditional edibles and tinctures is processed through the digestive tract, most of the valuable cannabinoids are lost through digestion. So can you explain to me in layman's terms what the difference is between that system and then the liposomal delivery system that you utilize in your products?
So that is the liposomal system, that we use in the Nano 5. And it's a different technology than we use in our edibles, because that technology doesn't work well with solids. So we, it's really designed more for liquids. So that technology is basically little nanoscale balls of fat. They're tiny. Liposomes are made up of lipids. Lipids are fats that are in your body, right? So what this technology does is it uses a high power emulsification system that essentially shatters all the ingredients into nanoparticles, and then they reassemble because of the polarity of the molecules, basically the charges. And they reassemble into what are called liposomes, and they are generally about 30 to 50 nanometers in size, which means that they are about 10 times the size of enzymes in your gut, which is ridiculously small.
Yeah.
And so those particles then are absorbed much, much faster into your system. So those are about 1,000 times smaller than a human cell. So they get in between the cells. They absorb very, very quickly sublingually. Even when they're going down the back of the throat, they absorb very, very quickly. And by the time they get into the gut, very similar to the technology that's used in the edibles, in the kind of nanos, this technology in the Nano 5 basically floats by the enzymes in your gut, and the enzymes say, we don't have to break it down anymore. It's already small enough. and so it's got rapid uptake in the gut, and you get about 80 to 90% bioavailability in the liposomal technology. So
Wow.
It's very, very rapid onset as well. That onset is 5 to 15 minutes. A lot of people feel it within 5 to 10. I personally feel it in 3, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
And overall, our objective is, consumers don't like to wait, right? So one of the things that we're all impatient, right? We don't have time to wait for our medicines to work, right? And so I think that's one of the reasons that smoking has been so popular. Not just because it's people enjoy the whole experience and the aroma of the flower and all that and the experience. It's all valuable, but it also, smoking also hits fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been working with these technologies for years because we know that it's very important to try to compress the time between ingestion and effect, right? And if you're dealing with rheumatoid arthritis and you need something to dull that pain quickly, you don't want to wait an hour, right? You want something that can hit you within 10 to 15 minutes. And so that's a struggle for us and a challenge that we work towards every day to try to improve that or compress that time by which the consumers feel the effects.
Right.
And we're a long ways into that process, but there's a lot of room for improvement, and it's an exciting part of our future as we develop more products.
Yeah, my mom has RA, and she has taken all sorts of things for it, and she has those sorts of concerns where she's like, if I'm feeling the pain from my arthritis now, or she'll say that, like, I can't anticipate that I'm going to feel pain in an hour. You know what I mean? So, like,
That's right.
If I'm feeling pain now, I would like to relieve that pain now rather than take something while I'm in pain now and then still have to wait 45 minutes to an hour to see if anything works, for the chance for something to work, right?
That's correct, yeah.
So I think that is really great that you're able to reduce that, give a precise dosage, and really clarify what people are going to get and what people can expect when they use your product.
Absolutely. But the other thing is that, we all know that the amount of food in the gut impacts the absorption of cannabis into the system, right? So for those that don't smoke, there can be inconsistencies if you don't use inconsistencies of experience if you don't use nanotechnology. So nanotechnology for us has also really helped to improve the consistent experiences that consumers are seeking, both in our edibles and in our sublinguals. I think it's gone a long way to try to help consumers, because your aunt, she wants to know that medicine's going to help her, and she knows exactly how much to take, and she takes it, and she knows that in 10 to 15 minutes she feels better. She doesn't want to have an inconsistent experience where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on, as our products work very, very consistently, and we hear that all the time from consumers.
Now, is there anything proprietary about this technology? Because if not, why hasn't anyone used it? Why hasn't it been used wide scale?
These technologies are complicated, right?
Okay.
Some of them are proprietary, some of them are not. There's a lot of different types of nanotechnology out in the industry. It takes a lot of time and energy and resources to go out and really figure out which ones work and which ones don't work. I think most companies in the industry have just been struggling just to stay alive and navigate through the transition from an unregulated market to a regulated market. As I said in the beginning of this interview, there's a lot of challenges in this industry. And so I think, a lot of brands just haven't had the bandwidth to really explore these technologies and really understand the nuances. The other thing is that they are not easy to work with. There are lots of challenges with nanotechnology, right? And so you have aspects where the nanotechnology breaks down. and then it doesn't work. You have flavoring issues. You've got issues with texture and proper mixing. So it's been a big journey for us to get all these products to work the way we want them to, and we've had plenty of challenges. So I think that's part of it as well. For us, we just committed to it early on. We said we're going to use nanotech. It's going to be an important part of our business, and we made that commitment. So I think that's many other brands have yet to kind of jump on that bandwagon.
Sure.
But there's also, like I said before, there's nanotech that some that works and some that doesn't. And there was a lot of hocus pocus out there. I'll give an example. I never personally found any CBD water that actually had nanotechnology that worked. So I was frustrated for many years with a lot of the claims that were being made out in the industry.
How many iterations did it take for you to finally get the products that you have on the shelves? Did you lose track? How many did you lose track after like a couple?
Yeah. No, we're talking dozens and dozens and dozens. Yeah. No, we've put a lot of work into these products, and we continue to do so because we're constantly trying to improve them. We've kind of got that first peg in the wall, that first really positive experience, but we know there's a lot more that we can do, and we're really excited about driving these technologies to the next level, and that's it's important. Continues to be an important part of our business.
Got it. Now, going back to the Nano 5 sublinguals for just a second. If you look again on Sunderstorm's site, the page for the Nano 5 products, it says that when the liver converts the remaining THC in the body, it produces a chemical that can cause anxiety and paranoia. So are the Nano 5 products designed with preventing that anxiety and paranoia in mind?
Yeah, we're still need a little more science on this.
Sure.
But basically what the research shows us is that when THC gets into the gut, it's converted into something called 11-hydroxy THC instead of delta-9 THC. We've all heard of delta-9, we've heard of delta-8, but 11-hydroxy is a form that's produced in the liver. There is some anecdotal evidence that this 11-hydroxy causes some anxiety and some paranoia. So we've found that to be the case ourselves with a lot of our consumers and patients. So the liposomal technology, because so much of it is absorbed sublingually, and even in the gut, it goes through very quickly as well and doesn't get processed in the liver. It has that advantage of uptake of delta-9. Now that isn't to say that people who smoke don't have occasionally have paranoia and anxiety as well.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
So there is there's still a lot more research that needs to be done, but we have found that these sublinguals, these Nano 5 sublinguals, are really a terrific alternative to smoking for those that are seeking to smoke a little bit less, because they hit so fast. 5 to 10 minutes generally for most people, so that can start to compete with the rapidity of the effect from smoking, and then certainly being able to get that delta-9 into the bloodstream is crucially important.
Got it. And the Nano 5 line includes a few different products from like Sunrise that promotes calming and healing, tranquility for sleep, lucidity for happiness and inspiration, and lightning strike for euphoria and creativity. How are the formulas for each specific Nano 5 sublingual designed with those effects in mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for example, if you look at our lucidity and our vitality products, we add 5-HTP to those products.
Mm-hmm.
And for consumers that don't know what 5-HTP is, it's a naturally occurring amino acid. You can buy it at GNC or Whole Foods. It's commonly consumed for some folks that use it to relax. Some folks use it just as a mood elevator. We find that when we insert it in combination with THC, it has a very, very nice effect of what I call smoothing out the sharp edges that THC sometimes can have for consumers. That's what we call the lucidity, which is 3 parts THC to 1 part CBD. We call that happy and inspiring because it has some horsepower with the THC, but it's smoothed out a little bit with the 5-HTP. The vitality on the flip side is 3 parts CBD to 1 part THC. So that's really designed for consumers that have medical conditions that they're trying to manage, and that could be anxiety, that could be a serious gut condition. We've had many cancer patients using the vitality to manage some of the pain and some of the elements of their conditions. Wow. And the 5-H, when you have an illness, you're not the happiest person on the planet, right? You're dealing with pain and anxiety, and the 5-HTP as a mood elevator really helps you put a smile on your face. So we find that a lot of patients really enjoy that aspect of the vitality. And then if you look at some of our other formulations, as an example, our tranquility, we also use some 5-HTP in there. We have a 1-to-1-to-1 equal amount of CBD, THC, and CBN in there. It's great for sleep. And then on top of that, we add some natural essential oils and then natural terpenes, right? That are known to cause sedative effects. And so you essentially get this formulation of very heavy hitting sleep formula. You can take a small amount of it and you start to fall asleep very quickly. And the good news is it seems to last. So that's that's one of my favorites. There's a lot of anxiety and stress in this industry. And I tend to take tranquility to relax at night quite a bit. So we're proud of that one too. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't blame you for having to unwind at the end of the day, because like you said, this industry can be filled with a lot of anxiety and stress and lots of fast moving parts. And that sort of segues into this next question that I have. I want to ask you a bit of a philosophical question here, because in a video on Sunderstorm's YouTube channel, you said that in your younger years, you feel like you were moving too fast and you were missing a lot of opportunities that were presenting themselves to you. So what you define as a pinhole of opportunity? What is that, and how does stepping into them attract more of the opportunities that you should be manifesting or experiencing?
I really enjoy talking about this because it's been a very, very important part of, kind of an enlightening experience or set of experiences in my life. I tend to be, I'm a triple Aries. I'm very much of a type A personality. I moved at light speed when I was younger. And when you move too fast, you just miss things that you should be paying attention to, little signs of opportunities and things. And there were other business opportunities that I look back in my past and they were right in front of me. Even social opportunities and things that I could have done to make my life better or to help others that I didn't pay attention to. And what I've found is I've gotten older and been beat up a little bit by life. That that, there are lots of signs and signals all around us that can be very, very impactful on our lives. And it's so easy to just, overlook it or just say, oh, no, I don't need to pay attention to that today. I'm too busy on, focused on my family, or too busy focused on this other business or this other thing that I'm doing, or I don't have time to donate time or volunteer for some, to help others. But these things, when you take advantage of these opportunities, they blossom into all kinds of really interesting things. And honestly, my foray into the cannabis industry was really a pivotal moment for me. I remember exactly what had happened. There was a friend that came into my house, and he showed me something, and I looked at it, and and I thought about it. I was like, not really. And then I slept on it for a night, and I said, you know what? I know better. At this stage in my life, I know better. This is something. This is actually potentially what I've been seeking to sink my teeth into for years, because it can be the culmination. It can use the culmination of all the skills that I've learned. And so I jumped headfirst into the industry, and look at where we've come today in 5 years. Very, very happy with that decision. But it would have been so easy for me just to say, oh, I've got this other thing that I'm focusing on, this technology company, and I don't really, I don't really want to be diverted, have my attention diverted. And
Sure.
and honestly, there's even things like, it's tough to travel these days, but I've had instances where I was invited to go on a trip, and I've passed many of them up, and then all of a sudden at one point someone invited me on something. I said, no, I'm going to do this, and it turned out to be completely life changing because of who I met, because of the experiences that I had, and that it was incredibly enlightening, and has allowed me and given me the insight and the experience that I can now share with others today, and with my team, right, with all of our employees, and to give them this insight. It's interesting because I tell all of my team members, I said that the way I look at it is your pay is really only half of the compensation that we offer you. The truth is that I have a lot of life experience. Keith has a lot of life experience. We have others that do. My job is to help you learn from our life experiences, and to help you grow, right? To help you take advantage of the opportunities that I also had when I was younger, and people that taught me, so that each team member can go on to do whatever they want in life. And I feel very, very strongly about this. The money is only part of what we can offer to our team members, and I work every day to be able to help them learn and gain insight into what's going on in their lives, and experiences that I've had, and I think they really appreciate that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I feel like so many young people nowadays feel a sort of pressure to keep moving fast and breaking things, a la Zuckerberg's business philosophy. To constantly be moving, constantly be ahead of the pack, and on that bleeding edge. So just one last question before we go here. What advice do you have for those young people who feel that anxiety to move as fast as possible? And how can they undergo a practice of slowing down periodically, and really being present to life as opposed to moving through it?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's also a really great question. And I certainly don't have all the answers.
Sure.
But I think one of the biggest challenges in our culture today, particularly in the American culture, is how much focus and how hard we have to work to compete, right? And I've been an advocate of a long time, trying to figure out ways that our society can work less and play more, right? And we just come from a culture in the United States, and it's been successful. We have some of the best technologies around the world. We grow the best cannabis in California anywhere, right? But at the same time, it takes an inordinate amount of energy and effort and hard work from folks. Even within the cannabis industry, everybody's working like a dog. It's been incredibly challenging for all of us. So in that world, how do we slow down, right? And I think some of it can be kind of simple things that we all hear every day is getting some exercise or meditating, but just really taking time for yourself. Get away from all of the technologies, and just sit. I remember I took some time off about 10 or 12 years ago, and I just sat for 3 months on a beach, and I didn't allow myself. I got rid of my phone, and I didn't allow myself to get engaged with technology and try to minimize my interactions with others. And it was really hard in the beginning. And I think, the human mind is an amazing thing, and it will absorb all kinds of things. And if you can just give it some time, some peace, it will do what it needs to. Your mind will lead you to amazing places. It's funny when I look at my life, for example. I do a lot of problem solving in my sleep. I always have throughout from when I was very young. There's a certain time of night where I get to a certain sleep mode, and my mind just problem solves. And so I think that's always been kind of an example to me of when you turn off things around you, you get the creativity flows, and inspiration comes. And, ultimately, I believe an important part of life is happiness, right? And happiness really it's a natural state. I believe that. But I also believe that happiness, you find your happiness by discovering what makes you unhappy and avoiding the things that make you unhappy, and really focusing on the things that do make you happy. And that requires you to experience a lot of different things in life. So, if there's one thing I would say is, for everyone, try to focus as much as you can on experiencing all the beautiful ins and outs and challenges and excitements that life has to offer, because that will help lead you to places that will help you find your blissful place, right?
Totally.
And don't get overwhelmed with technology, Totally. And I know this sounds a lot of it kind of mundane, but I really do believe in these things. I really believe that they are instrumental in helping us find what we seek to achieve.
Totally. I absolutely agree. It takes that unhappiness to know what happiness is. It takes the sad to know what joy is. It takes the darkness for a Sunderstorm to peek through, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, that's really well put. Yeah, you don't know one unless it's contrasted with the other, right?
Exactly.
And that's been, that's not how I grew up. I grew up, really thinking, we're born happy and there's lots of happiness out there, but you don't really know it until you see some of the darkness.
Exactly that.
So don't be afraid of the darkness either.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Takes the darkness to see the light, for sure.
Absolutely. It has a lot of value for us. Yeah.
Well, Cameron, man, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate you taking the time. Before we go here, where can our listeners find out more about Sunderstorm and the products that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Best place is to find us on the web at sunderstorm.com. That's SUNDERSTORM.com. And you can also check us out on at By Sunderstorm on Instagram. And we have a couple other Instagram sites as well that they'll find if they go there. Happy to participate.
Yeah, hit the follow button. It'll give you the suggested accounts.
Absolutely.
You could follow all those ones too.
Absolutely.
Right on. Cameron Clarke, man, thank you so much again for taking the time. I hope you continue to stay safe where you are, and hopefully we can have another conversation, maybe in person sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
My thanks again to Cameron Clarke for joining me. If you are a member of the cannabis community and have a story you want to share with us, we would love to hear from you. You can reach the show at hashitout@trichomes.com. You can help others find the show by taking a moment to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. You can also join in on the discussion with industry insiders and get your voice heard by joining the community at trichomes.com and following us on all social media. Hash It Out is produced by David Fortin and presented by trichomes.com. I'm RJ Balde. Thanks for listening.